Hello, folks. Dave Parrish here with Knack Builders, doing another video for you folks. Please, if you can, like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Today's topic. Today I'm doing a case study. I'm not going to dive into a bunch of technical stuff. I'm just show what we're doing using Knack. It's called an honor flight management system. I don't know if you know what honor flights are. A lot of cities have them. I think there's 100 some organizations in different cities that do these. They take vets and they take them to Washington, D.C. to see all the monuments, the war monuments. Here's a plane full of vets. There's all kinds of them. And you imagine, usually they charter a plane. There could be up to 90 vets, and each vet has what's called a guardian that comes with them. It could be one of their family members, or if they don't have anyone, the organization will assign them. Press comes too, and there's medics on the flight. There's a whole bunch of people, so there ends up being close to maybe 200 folks. And that all has to be managed. People need to sign waivers and provide information and all kinds of different stuff for each of the individuals, especially the vets. And they all have to be sort of checked off. Okay, they're ready to go. If something happens, there's an issue, we need emergency contact readily available, all kinds of things. And this is all, the organization I'm working with, and I think for a lot of them, it's all done with spreadsheets. You can imagine that's a colossal hassle trying to upkeep all this information. There's a bunch of reporting that needs to be done too, that all has to be manually compiled. Well, I did an app, and I'm going to show you. It's pretty slick. It's using all basically Knack's native functionality. I'm going to take you through it and show you how it works now. Thanks. Okay, let's jump into this. Case study on an honor flight management system. I'm going to call this up. Here, let me move that. Hopefully you can see this well. I may zoom in when I'm editing some of this, but there's a lot of information. But I'm going to show you the back end real quick. I'm not going to spend much time. Don't worry about all these different tables down here. They were here when I got the app. To do this whole thing, we only need a few. We need a veteran, and a veteran can only go on these once. And we didn't make a veteran sign in as a user role because the organization said a lot of them can't deal with full-on login stuff. So we made them here. Then there's what's called a participant, and that's anyone else. That could be that guardian I'm talking about. It could be an EMT. It could be a press people or other folks that are going on. And so we have them as a user role. They will log in. They can handle that. And they can go more than once. An EMT might go multiple times. So in that data structure, you always got to think of this. Okay, if their participant is going more than once, well, the participant itself isn't going more than once. In data structure, an instance of that participant is going more than once. We have the flight itself. All these people have to be divvied up on buses for transport. And then I have something called video where I do instructional videos for the user of this. And then we have some notes. You can take notes as you're working this. But let's get into this. Here's the main part of the app. They can add a flight. So they got a new flight coming up. And these are all test stuff, by the way, right now. So they add a flight. And this, once they do it, there's a cost too, by the way. Veterans don't have to pay, but their guardians do have to pay. It's like $600, and that can change, so that it's a variable for each flight. But here's the main thing. So they have the flight, then they have the veterans. Here's a whole bunch of veterans, and they're all in the system, and they're picked based on age solely. So any vet that's available, meaning they still want to go, they haven't been on another one, and something hasn't happened to them to not allow them to go anymore. There's some weird age stuff in here. Don't worry about that. We're just playing with stuff. So they can add a vet to themselves, but the way most veterans get into the system is there's a portal. Here's just a form that asks a bunch of questions. This is the vet applying to be on a flight. And this is going to end up being embedded in their own website, so it's going to look better. But basically, they're collecting a bunch of pertinent information about all kinds of stuff. And there's some waiver stuff on this first part. But once they're in the system, the admins here are going to be, stuff comes in waves. I don't know how many they do a year, 3 or 4 a year. So they're looking, and they can filter this by folks that haven't already or still need to go on a flight, all kinds of different stuff. But when it's time for them to pick, and what they do in this case is pick 88. There's 88 vets that can go. It must be based on number of spaces, seats in the plane. They can find a vet that meets their criteria. They can pick whatever flight they want to go on, and they add them to that. Not sure if this is going to generate an email or not at this point. We're still figuring out the communications. There's a lot of communications with this stuff. But they go through this. They work this list of vets, and they add them all. And these show different. We're going to sort this out. Anyone who's already been on a vet or on a flight will probably be in a pass table here, and only ones that are eligible to go on the next flight. And then they'll just start adding all of them. And then these vets are assigned to a flight. Let's just go to one of these. Now here's a bunch of flights. I'm going to go to this one. We can count. We're counting how many are on there, how many buses there are, whatever. Then they go to the flight, and here's all the flight information. And then here's a list of all those vets. Okay. I did, by the way, this isn't native. I put some code for sticky headers here. So here's all the people that are ready to go. And down beneath are a list of the different participants. Ambassadors, whatever that is, EMT, medical people, and the guardians are the main folks. Now what happens here, the guardian, through communication via the organization and through the vet also, the guardian has to go sign up. We have the guardians create an account because they have to guardians actually have to pay, so we have some e-commerce involved. I'll get to that in a second. But once they're in here, what we're looking for is to assign each vet to a guardian, and we do that by clicking here. They have to go find the guardian for this vet, and we're probably going to put two people could have the same name. We'll have some distinguisher here, like an email or something. But then they submit it, and they assign this participant whose role this time is a guardian to this. When they do that, Knack automatically creates an instance of this guardian down here. So they have this thing called E-Team. These are a group of people from the organization that are assigned to work this flight. And when I say work the flight, to make sure that all the vets are assigned to a guardian, that waivers have been signed, that and they also, once they're done with each person, okay, we have all this person in order, they can check yes, I'm done, so they don't have to worry about that. They can filter it out so the list keeps getting smaller and smaller. We got this aspect here called contact. So as they're getting, this could be by email, by phone, however they're going to be dealing with getting all this stuff in order for each individual and their corresponding guardian. They can click contact. We have everyone who's involved with this, their phone numbers. They can do what they do with communications. They can create a note right here also. And keep a history of notes, and we're going to add on to this. Does this note require follow-up, and was the follow-up completed or not? And then there'll be some indication here, like under contact, if there's a red explanation point, for example. That means there's something still to be done. All this helps in the process of working this list and getting stuff done. So that's how that happens. Another thing, once the vet is assigned to a flight, he has to go sign some specific waivers for that flight. It's mandatory. And remember, we didn't have a password. We didn't do a full login for this vet because the organization didn't want it, didn't think they can handle it. So I approached this, and it makes it a little simpler. When a vet is assigned, or when they're created, when they apply, the system automatically generates a random number. And I did some text formula stuff to make it whatever. They each get assigned this. This is called their access code. And it's what they only need this to be able to get into the system and do what they have to do. And I'm going to show you that right now. This other screen here, that's the application I showed you. This is the access code. This again will be embedded, look a lot prettier. But this is a search function that only shows results of the matching. In this case, it's the access code. So either verbally at times or via email, the vet's going to say, hey, or they're going to get a communication, say, hey, go to this URL, enter your code, and it'll be listed right there in the email. And then you have to do something. I'll just show you. So here's a test vet. This is very simple. We may make this prettier. But what they have to do is sign this waiver. That's the most important thing. They can update information about their email or whatever, but so they have this waiver stuff. They got to check all this stuff off and then sign it and then submit it. Once that's done, it'll say waiver complete. And I'll go back to the plain list. Let's go to this one. So every time they're doing it, they're saying, hey, is the waiver done? Yes or no. It can go look at that. So the people who are assigned to manage this whole system know, okay, this is done, but maybe they still have to do something else. I don't know, whatever it is. Confirm a wheelchair. So, and when they are sure this person is done, then they can go knock them off there. Now, from the guardian standpoint, here's the guardian. This person is assigned to this vet. There's a similar process. Remember, guardians have to log in. One of the reasons they have to log in is they have to pay. And again, they can be on more than one flight, so we have a history of the flights they were on. But here's what the guardians see. They've already created an account. They have whatever password and email they set up for themselves. And they're communicated, we'll be doing broadcast emails throughout this process at certain milestones to prompt people to do something. But in this case, guardian logs in, and this guardian says, hey, you're assigned to this vet on this date for this flight. You need to, the order they have to do this, by the way, the organization wanted it. They don't want them to be able to sign the waivers until they've made the payment. So we'll have instructions for this, but right here, there's a payment thing. I'm not going to go through it for time, but this is right now a Stripe test mode, Knack's e-commerce. They make the payment. In this case, it's $650. Once they make the payment, then they're prompted to sign the waivers. And then they're done with that part for them. And then back on the list of, let's go to this. The participants, right here, it's going to show have they signed and paid yet. So we can keep knowing. We're going to skinny down this list until we got it all right. Then, once it's all set up, there's a number of things. One, all these things up here, based on all this information, they're assigned to buses over here. It automatically generates all kinds of reporting. I'm going to make my head a little smaller here if I can. So this shows all 4 buses. It shows how many vets, how many guardians, and these are some quality control checkpoints too here. There should always be an equal number of vets and guardians. Right here it says 21, 22. Well, something's up. People working the list need to go back and check stuff out. And then you can go to each bus and see, okay, who's on each bus and have all their information. Also, they create name tags for each of these. And what they do is give information to a printer who sets it up. Well, that printer needs to have a CSV generated in a very specific format for how they do stuff. This system automatically does it all. You just click on name tags. It has all information right here. All they have to do is export it. Before, if you can imagine, they're manually importing or manually creating their name tag spreadsheet. Okay, it's not all linked together. They're probably doing it one at a time. This just does it automatically now. They have something else called a TSA. So this is going to be the flying government stuff. They need this list in this order with these columns, even though they're blank. They need to be handed this list. This automatically creates it. And then what else we have? Then there's a main plane list, which it's a wide, or how wide is this? No, it's this wide. This is what they'll end up exporting and putting on a clipboard. So they're not going to do everything on a mobile phone, especially with these many columns. So there'll be several of these probably different people have that's exported, printed out, landscape, I'm sure, and on a clipboard that people, the bus leads or the plane leads, I think they have all those, have this stuff ready available to them. That's pretty much it. I think, again, this is all done with native Knack functionality. This is a long one, I'm sorry, but there's a lot to do here. Phase 2 to this, we'll probably use some other non-native functionality. One of them I can imagine is being some checkbox functionality, so we can do multiple things at the same time. Like, for example, the vet. We can assign a whole bunch of them at once to a flight instead of one at a time. And then also, there's some real clever communication stuff you can do. Instead of me just having that note function, you can have this via Make and Twilio and some other. I've done it on some other apps. It puts all the communication right in here. You're not going back out to your own email interface and doing stuff. It can be generated right through here in the history and all kinds of things tracked automatically. Or at some point you want to do broadcast emails and you can do it right from here instead of having to do it from someplace else. That's what I got, folks. I appreciate it.